Welcome to Aerosim Gaming. I'm Rush, and this is a test flight in an RV6. It's a bit of a special flight, as this is with the owner of the aircraft, who also happens to be a test pilot for the National Research Council of Canada. And he's going to show us what it's like to take an aircraft up and test its handling qualities as a test pilot. This flight was done in Smith Falls, up in Canada. And without making you wait any longer, let's cut over to the audio in the aircraft. Enjoy the flight.
That guy that was at the circuit when you're in the koozie just seemed to look like he was just making it up as he went. Yeah, little airports, you see some pretty funny circuit procedures. I think it was saying he was like calling downwind when he was like overhead the field, and he did two midfield crosswind joins, and it was. I know that's going to be on Facebook later. Probably by the time we land. Yeah, she loves this thing, eh? We've been having a lot of fun with it, and Deb seems to be really on side with it. It's just great. He's still learning to fly? Well, this over the winter she stopped, and this year we haven't resumed yet. Yeah, so it's kind of a work in progress. That. All right, clear ahead and behind, and fuel's on the left, and everything's forward. This small traffic 152 Golf is in Alpha, turning to final runway 24 full stop. 1800. EI. Hardly any drop at all. Notice the mag, it indicates a huge drop, but that's because it loses the pickup, and it divides by 2. Oh, okay. But it's smooth. Drop. That's different, I never saw that. Well, I think I know why I did that. It's my fault. It's in the setup of the EFIS, and I screwed up the engine configuration file. Okay, that's what this caution display is for, and I gotta fix that. So when the engine runs after the annual, it was still showing correct. Yeah. Mixture goes up, and then it goes down. Good. Because it's a test flight, I'll test the alternate ignition. Alternate induction air never does anything, but it runs. And then idle. Good. We'll do the pre-takeoff with back taxi. I leave that cracked on the ground. Get ice to the spark plugs. Oh, he wants to clear. This RV6 is holding. This falls traffic. Sierra Papa Bravo RV6 is backtracking, Boeing 24. Anybody around? Nobody home. Haven't heard anybody, but it's never stopped anyone. Everything about this airplane I started to appreciate more after flying the cozy. It's really good at cruising, that thing, or will be. I mean, it's still a work in progress, but it's a lot of very novel systems all in one airplane. Yeah, I don't know. Again, that gear system that he has is like, fuck. You need a textbook just to figure that out. Well, he's smart and he built it, so it's simple to him. I don't even know what happens up this end of the field. Just nothing. Yeah, it's quieter, isn't it?
hangars, and there always seems to be people up here, but I see the aircraft in there with weeds growing around them and stuff.
Yeah. Alright, pre-takeoff is complete. That's free. I'll quick takeoff briefing. Full throttle about 2670 for 2700. Airspeed's alive. Check the oil pressure. We got winds of 12 o'clock at about 10. Malfunctions on the runway, 3000 available. I'll just go to idle, stop straight ahead. Once the runway is unavailable, gentle turns, min speed 90, flaps and mags master and fuel. Gentle turns for soft place to land. Clock has started. 1200. Oh, it will be. 1200. Auto. Baseball traffic, RV6 Sierra Papa Bravo is rolling out runway at 24, a left-hand out overhead. Let's go flying. Down. Airspeed's alive, 26.7. The oil pressure's good, and it just flies off when it's ready.
You don't even need to seem to add any forward stick.
I've been experimenting with that, and basically just letting it go when it's ready is working just fine.
Yeah.
I gotta get him out of here.
Yeah. Just squish him.
Would work. Alright, I've been bringing the power back to 2500 RPM after takeoff. There are fields over here that I like. Boost pump checks.
Yeah, I know you want to get out.
Yeah, good luck, huh? You recording now, or are you going to be doing that later?
Oh, yeah, I think I press the record button, and it looks like it's doing stuff now already, so I should have about an hour of video there.
Good. Yeah, easily, even at this weight, two of us and about half fuel, a little more than half fuel. 110 knots, 800 to 1,000 feet a minute, no problem. Wow. Yeah, I'm loving this thing. It is such a good, useful, honest airplane with a lot of utility. Let's see, 80 oil pressure, 140 electrical systems happy. It is good. I was going to go work just to the north of the city of Smiths Falls. Keep an eye out for Kevin Horton. He's up there somewhere breaking in an engine.
Yeah. I think you'd spot a bright gold aircraft a little bit easier, but
yeah. That's a beautiful machine that he's built.
It looks really nice. It really does.
I got 3,000 and set some power, and then it's all yours.
Sounds good to me. See what you mean by getting your feet off this skid here. I think that might actually even help with fatigue. If
I think for sure.
Yeah, for anything over a few hours, that'll get pretty tiresome.
Yeah. Well, it's a little lumpy, but it's not an unworkable day. 3,000-ish. Deb's been laughing because every time I fly with her, part of the post-takeoffs, I put my hand over on her leg, start adjusting the mixture. She says, if you ever fly with anybody else, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do. All right, well, it's more or less a trim of 3,000, and be familiarize yourself with the RV. You have control.
Okay, I have control.
It's a little bit right-wing heavy. I got to do that adjustment again.
The flaps?
I don't think so. It could be, but I think this is exactly the way it was before the annual. It's usually addressed with a little bit of a squeeze of the, I think it's the trailing edge of the heavy wing.
Yeah. Well, the difference between straight and level and a 500 foot per minute descent is not much.
No.
You'd say the controls are pretty much, would you say, harmonized? Like it seems to be similar pitch versus sort of, the roll's a little bit lighter, right?
Yeah, and actually, one of the first things you look at with an airplane, well, do your thing and then I'll answer that for the tape.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Right, I might go give us a turn around to the right.
Yeah.
Clear left centre, clear to the right. We'll try and maintain level with this. Also, where the hell's the ball in this thing?
Yeah, right at the top of the AO.
Oh, yeah, I see. I picked up 100 feet. I don't feel as ham-fisted as last time this time around, but
you just got to get jump flying more often.
That's the plan eventually. These are so pretty flying here. Like Australia, somewhere like this, it's just all brown and dead. Like,
oh, wow.
Okay, I'm going to roll out on that their little lake, and we'll do another one around to the left. Clear to the right, to the left. Now have a little look behind us there. A little bit of bumpy bumps today, but it's okay. Around we go. Cool.
That guy who was entering the circuit ahead of me in Smiths Falls before, he says, in midfield, joining the downwind for 2-4, he says, and the cozy, I've got you at my 6. I said, man, you got good eyes. We're doing 158 true at 71%.
That's crazy.
And, 7.7 gallons an hour.
Why would you own a 172?
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, we'll do the same. I'll roll out over here. Seems to be fairly stable compared to, say, the last thing I flew was the V-tail Bonanza, where any slight bit of gust at the tail would just kind of, like it wasn't diverging in how it was like wiggling around.
Yeah.
You feel this, it instantly corrects. Like you can actually feel the correcting force. Oh, that's not going to a massive rate of descent now.
Yeah, well, one of the weaknesses of the 6, and Van recognized it in the 7, is that the vertical stabilizer is a little too small, and it does have a slightly damped Dutch roll and cruise.
Yeah.
But it's got good rudder control response, so anybody with, feet that are awake, they just act as a damper, and it's half subconscious.
Yeah.
And it's probably worth 2 knots, so every airplane's a design compromise. There's not much of a change about it. And people, especially if they fly factory-built airplanes, they immediately notice the control response. It's got a lot more control power, livelier rates, lighter forces than factory airplanes.
Yeah.
I mean, it is designed as a sport plane. Its mission is to be delightful.
Yeah.
And so they try to make that.
Okay, I'll do one more around to the right, maybe at 45 this time. Clear left center right, and then, if you want to show me all of your super-duper stuff, that'd be great.
I'll just mention a few things about the airplane as if we're doing an evaluation. Try to imagine I've never sat in it before.
The rudder control as well, even 45, just feels like the weight in my feet. If I actually took my foot off the left rudder there, it would probably help as well, but
it doesn't take much coordination, does it? No.
Nice if I held altitude, however.
A huge solar farm down there.
Yeah. What are they growing?
Sunlight.
That was a little bit poor. We lost 180 feet there. Yeah, I still remember the first time I flew this thing, I was just over-controlling, like I was trying to fly a 172 or something, and
just pressures, you rarely move the controls much,
Yeah, it's different going from a mindset of stick deflection to, you got to look outside a little bit more, but when you have that mindset, stick deflection, this is how much I need to move the stick to get this given response from the aircraft, this aircraft's completely different to that. But.
So should we just kind of acquaint ourselves with the airplane?
Yes, I'm all good.
I have control.
You have control.
Yeah, so I'll just pretend I've never flown this airplane before in spite of the fact that we own it. It's kind of as if it was first acquaintances. And the conditions are really not ideal. I mean, here we are at 1,000-foot-a-minute climb, mainly gusts and turbulence, but we'll do what we can with it. One of the first things I'm interested in is the mechanical properties of the flight controls. That's the interface between the man and the machine. And so what I typically want to do is look at things like breakout forces and friction. And for example, if the airplane were ever stable in this atmosphere, I would just kind of let go here and see if the airplane generates any rates. If it doesn't, I can give it a little nudge and then let go. And there would be no residual rates because the stick has effectively perfect centering. Again, to the left, get it moving a little bit, and then when you let go, it stops. And that means that the centering of the aileron hinge moments exceed friction, and the thing has effectively perfect centering. If there's a lot of friction in the controls, you get it moving, and you let go, and it keeps moving. And that's just residual displacement due to friction. Nobody likes that. Likewise, in pitch, we're sitting at 132 knots. I can just touch the back of the stick and generate a very slow pitch rate and a slight deceleration. And that tells me again that the breakout forces in pitch are minimal. Just touching the stick with less than the weight of my thumb, see the nose is going down, the airplane's responding. And that's going to mean that it's satisfyingly responsive to small inputs. In terms of course control response, an airplane that has a lot of control power is going to be an airplane that you like to fly. It's going to make it safer in gusts and crosswinds. It's also going to make it more fun, and it's a sport airplane. So, for example, if I apply, say, an inch of stick, let's see if we can't quantify that. From 45 right, 1 inch lateral left stick, now, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,004. Okay, well, that's about 22.5 degrees per second, is that right? Per inch. And you can do a better job, but you can get a sense for the control sensitivity. And of course, if you wanted to extrapolate out to the control limits, well, it's got tons of it. Going right, left, right. That's fast enough to enjoy yourself and to get yourself out of trouble too if you were in wake turbulence encounter or gusty crosswind conditions or what have you. So that's control response in roll, and you can similarly do something in pitch. In pitch, you're not so much interested in how much angular rates you can generate as how quickly the airplane will keep up with you. Here's a new thought. If I pull back on the stick, the nose goes up. If I push forward on the stick, the nose goes down. Except I'll show you in a second that that's not true. The airplane has a rate of dynamic response. Yeah, pulling back, nose is going up. Pushing forward, the nose is going down. But if I did that 50 times per second, the nose isn't going to go up and down 50 times per second. The airplane can't physically generate control response that fast. It's got mass, it has to accelerate, it's got a dynamic response. That's what we call the short period mode of control response. And if I were to put in a small input, now there'll be a little G transient here, you can immediately begin to see, as I do this faster and faster, that the airplane's actually falling behind me a little bit. By about, you got a phase lag there. By about now, I'm actually, it's really turbulent for this, I'm actually pulling back and the nose is going down, and pushing forward and the nose is going up. I'm out of phase 180 degrees with the airplane. And that is a quick and dirty way of seeing what is the rapidity of control response that the airplane can generate. In an extra 300 or a PITS, it's blisteringly fast. 2-3 inputs per second, it'll generate G and move the nose. In a 707, a whole lot slower. Yeah. So that's one of the personality things that an airplane shows you that tells you how aggressively you can maneuver and have the airplane keep up with the control inputs. Anyway, that's control response in a nutshell. And one of the other things you could look at if you're interested, and we can't today, would be something like the long-term or phugoid response, which would be its dynamic response to changing airspeed. I can sort of simulate 130 knots. If I were to pull back to 115 knots.
You're in the trim state at 135. So, yeah.
So I think it was trimmed at 130 and 115. If I let go, you immediately see I'm maintaining it laterally, but leaving it in pitch. It generates a pitch rate. It's heading back toward trim. That tells you that it's statically stable. It tends toward its trimmed airspeed. The nose goes down, the airspeed goes up, and you're going to see it overshoot a little bit, kind of like exciting a spring. And as it increases, there'll be a damped oscillation, and that'll tell you something about the character of the airplane in terms of its speed maintenance. And for things like IFR, you want a relatively well-damped long-term or phugoid mode. And there's similar games you can play with lateral directional axes. People don't typically do testing of the roll and yaw axes independently because they're so coupled. So we just think lateral directional coupled together. And I'll just roll out along these lines here. It's nice to have reference lines and do a real simple flight test technique called the steady heading side slip. And you can do this in various configurations at your approach speed and your cruise condition. You can really get to know the airplane. But I'm going to apply a little bit of right rudder and just enough lateral stick to hold my heading. Now the ball is out. And we're flying kind of sideways, just a one ball displacement. Now what does this tell me? Well, the amount of pedal tells me how hard I have to work to get the airplane to not fly straight, and that's indicative of directional stability. And it's got plenty because it's taken quite a bit of pedal force to make a one ball displacement. It's qualitative, it's subjective, but it's telling me that the tail wants to really swing back into the wind. If I let go of the pedals, well, there it goes, it comes back into the wind. Yeah. And I'm just looking at the initial tendencies, the statics. Likewise, if I go back into my silly steady heading side slip here, let's look at its tendency and roll. Right pedal, left stick. It wants to roll into the applied pedal. If I let go of the stick and maintain my pedal, there's the tendency to roll induced by side slip. Let go of the pedal and it stops. That's dihedral effect. In a sense, that's how much the airplane wants to roll from yaw, indicated by the amount of stick you have to use to restrain it. And so these are all things that kind of give away to a test pilot. What is the personality of the airplane? Those are static characteristics because I could sit there in that condition and read the airplane for as long as I want. Then there's also dynamic characteristics such as the Dutch roll. And what I'm going to do is put in a little pedal doublet, a left and a right on the pedals. And once you get the right frequency to kind of tweak the springs and let the springs oscillate, we'll see how this airplane behaves. That's one of the things about the RV6. It's a little bit quirky. Pedal right, left, release. And it's got 1, 2 oscillations, and then it kind of stops. That's pedals free. Try it again. Left, right, release. It's very flat. And that time, you see it lasts quite a long time. Yeah, that's more characteristic of the RV. It does have quite a lightly damped lateral directional mode, the Dutch roll. If your feet are awake, you just make it stop. It's no big deal. The rudder's small because this airplane's a little bit more about performance than certified handling. I think that's probably the highlights of a kind of quick and dirty look at the airplane.
Just make sure this is still recording. Yeah, it sure is.
Good. That useful?
That's very useful. That's quite amazing.
Yeah, there's hours you could spend doing evaluations of an airplane in terms of the human factors and ergonomics of the cockpit layout. I'd be interested in the field of view, of course, especially for a sport airplane. And in this case, one of the things people don't notice until they take it cross country is you got this panoramic view of the world with a beautiful glass bubble above us. But if you're sightseeing, you can't actually see the ground pass underneath you because you're sitting on the wing.
It's quite amazing. My field of view is literally wingtips. Like I can see from the wingtips where I'm seeing ahead, so it's only 180 degrees, and yeah.
And I guess one last thought with respect to flight testing is you could spend all day doing these flight test techniques, measuring stability and steady heading side slips, but ultimately what's most important is flying the airplane in a operationally representative way.
Yeah.
If it's a fighter, you're going to drop a bomb or point a gun. If it's a transport, you're going to carry a payload and try to cruise the airplane from place to place and then draw conclusions about is it meeting its design? Does it do what it's intended for? And with this airplane, that's really fun because, of course, it's designed to entertain you.
It's meant to be fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
While we're here, why don't I do a quick stall just to show how benign the airplane is. You good with that? I'm good with. All right, I'll just haul the nose up again to slow down. Hey, put that in a little bit.
It really retains its energy, even with power, like we're 2,000 foot a minute, and not a little bit more now, but
you pull the nose up 1,800 feet in cruise if you leave the power up, and it's just lovely that way.
Do you lose much directional stability with the rudder when it starts getting slow, or is it airspeed dependent?
Yeah, as the airspeed goes down, all control response begins to decay. You saw the control response in roll at 130. Well, it's a lot slower now because you're blowing a lot less air over the wings. But even so, this is remarkable in its own way. At 75 indicated because, if I was in a gusty crosswind, like we landed this airplane yesterday at Smiths Falls, it was 15 gusting 25 across the runway. And the wind is trying to upset the airplane all the time. You have enough control response in this airplane to beat those gusts into submission and make sure the airplane goes where you want it to. Sometimes you feel like a passenger when you're flying some factory airplanes and they decay to the point of being sloppy at low speeds. I'm just looking at the cylinder heads. They get warm when we get slow. But what I'll do is turn around here and just do a almost idle, level, clean stall. So the flaps are up, and just a trickle of power. Just keep the engine happy. And let's see what, with you and me and half fuel, that's probably 1,600 pounds. Gross weight 1,650. See where it stalls. And the indicated airspeeds aren't always reliable, but I can tell you in this case, they're pretty close. Oh, 65. Ideally about a knot per second is the prescribed rate of deceleration. Slowly let the airspeed bleed away. There's no stall warning systems on the airplane, so it's just going to be aerodynamic. 55. There it was. A very gentle brake, and I just held the stick where it is, and you see we had the airplane just doing a G brake, a pitch brake. It accelerated 5 knots, that's why it stopped there. And so there's no warning. The airplane just begins to nod. While we're in the stalled condition, I roll right, I roll left, it's still stalling, I roll level, perfect lateral control response.
The buffet almost feels like it's coming from the tail first, almost. I don't know if it is, but it feels like they're...
I'm not sure. With the flaps down, of course, it's about 5 or 6 knots less. I'll leave those where they are. And I think that is quite charming.
Yeah. The fact that you can just continue to recover and pull it back in or stall again, and all, It doesn't have any washout built into the wings either, right? They're just straight wings.
I can't remember. To tell you the truth, I should look that up.
I thought they were just slab wings, which would make it kind of remarkable that you still have full aileron control even through the buffet, but...
Bloody wonderful wings. Anything else you want to do with it before we head back?
No, I'm fine. Fly around a little bit, maybe, but
that sounds pretty good.
Time for fuel, I don't know.
No, we're okay for... Tell you what, why don't we do some monkey see, monkey do?
Sounds good to me.
I'll do a wing over, and then you can do a wing over. Let me get some speed up first.
This sky view is amazing, eh? Like, lake goes under the aircraft, lake on the screen.
Yeah. I was really a skeptic about synthetic vision for a long time, but it is very cool.
I mean, it's not going to tell you to within a foot, but I mean, what I see there is what I see out there, and
well, when we land, you'll notice that there's a synthetic runway rolling underneath us on the runway. You could conceivably almost land this thing just on the display. Look at the topography down there. It looks like the view outside. And that, of course, is only the half-screen view.
Yeah, wow.
All right, let me put the power back where it should be. A proper textbook wing over. I'm going to change my heading by 180 degrees. And at the 90-degree heading point, the airplane will be at 90 degrees of bank with a maximum altitude change. Let me see, that's about right. You can do 70%. So I'm going to just reverse heading with reference to this road beneath us. I'll do it to the right, away from the city. And it's fairly lumpy, but there's 3,200 feet, wing over, starting now. Gentle pull up, gentle bank. We're going to be at 90 degrees of heading, at 90 degrees of bank, which is right on this road. Isn't that convenient? There. Then we're just going to undo it with a gentle application of roll rate, pitch rate, and we end up on the opposite heading, conveniently at 3,200 feet, which is where we started. And you actually gain a little speed because of the time spent going slowly. So, your turn. Monkey see, monkey do. Okay, you have control.
So the only question I did feel is, it did feel a little bit of right rudder there to get you over the top there, or is it just to keep the ball centered with power?
Oh, yeah, all you need to do is just apply rudder to coordinate, keep the ball centered. You're not using it to generate yaw rates, it's a coordinated turn. Okay, you have control.
Okay, I have control. Shall we go to the left this time?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. So we start pitching. A little bit more aggressive on the pitch. There we go. We start the roll. And keep pitching. And keep the roll going. Speed starting to decay. Keep rolling. There's through 90.
Very nice.
Now look out. Find ourselves a nice road so we look like we know what we're doing. How about that road right there? A little bit slow on the roll there, but oh well. Tried to make it look pretty.
Yeah, as long as it's symmetric, roll in, roll out, as slow as you want, as long as they're about the same. Cool.
What speed are you looking at? You don't want to start...
RV6 Golf, November Hotel Kilos, 1 mile south of the field, 4,500 descending to 2,500 overhead Smith Falls.
Yes, close.
Yeah. Hi, Kevin. How's the engine running?
It's going well.
Good. You use those break-in hours, you get it to Oshkosh, I hope?
I hope so, yeah.
Good. We're about 1 mile north of Smith Falls.
Switch fuel tank.
3,100 feet. We'll call returning to the airport in about 5 or 10 minutes. And thank you, Emily. I just switched fuel tanks. Yeah, so about the wing overs, you can do that at any speed you want. I'm going to do one, and it'll be below our stalling speed across the top. Here, I have control.
You have control.
And the point is that if you're not making lift, you're not going to stall. And you can easily do a wing over that's big and slow and swooping and actually slightly below your stalling speed. No angle of attack, no lift, no stall. So there's 3,100 feet. I'll do it to the right and coming up. So it's going to be lower and taller. We're going to loft the airplane way up into the sky and looking for below 55 knots as we go through a nice coordinated across the top and then undo it. And as you offload the G at the top, the airplane isn't making angle of attack, it isn't going to stall. And it's interesting too how much energy you make doing a maneuver like that. There's a 3,100. Yeah, we've gained 15 knots. 6 power, slow speed. It either climbs or accelerates.
And the point that you're turning over on the ground there, it only seems to be a few hundred feet.
Yeah.
Most of the turning components at the vertical, right? So,
yeah. That's where Kevin went to. Do we head back to the world?
Sounds good to me. We'll miss that bird.
Good. Descending.
I guess the G at the top as well would help a little bit, right? The wings are unloaded, so Alpha's yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always practice in the Harvard is going across the top of a wing over at 70, 60, 50, and it's a coordination exercise to remind yourself it's important aerodynamics. That no lift, no stall.
Yeah. I'll try and keep an eye out for this RV8 for you. Can't see him yet.
I think he was up around 5,000.
I thought he said he was turning back for the field.
Oh, okay.
Or was he just saying he was operating? I thought he was saying he was coming back, but...
Okay. Power's down. I wind the prop back to as low as 2350. It's nice and smooth. There's one last turn on the way downhill. We were coming back with Joe Cosmano's Cardinal in formation yesterday. He's doing 120 knots, and we're at 52% power. Just love it, man. Smith Falls, I go overhead for a left-hand circuit, a lumpy, bumpy one. Amazing to me, too, the amount of information in the cockpit. It tells me I'm doing 25.5 nautical miles per gallon right now. Wow. How many miles I can fly, how many hours to my endurance, all on the panel at all times.
All that stuff you used to have to get a pen and paper out, do some math.
Point it downhill in a sure build speed fast.
There's traffic inside, off to the right-hand wing over the top of the lake. No conflict.
Okay, great. Well above us, good.
Here's a 3.5 or something. Probably looking for you. Try and shoot you down.
Traffic. The Sierra Papa Bravo RV6 is 2 miles northwest, 1,500 feet in descent to pass overhead to join a left circuit for 24 full stop.
I think he's seen you. I think he wants to roll in on you and shoot you down.
I was thinking of going up and finding him for some formation flying, but it's a bit of a no-no to do that without briefing it. There's our 1400. One of the things that's really neat about this airplane, it's particularly if the CG is aft, it's actually speed neutral speed in terms of stability, and you notice they almost never have to trim the thing. It's I don't mind that at all, but it's something to be a bit cautious of. It does really have strong speed stability.
You can see if you weren't conscious, because the stick pressure is so light as well, you could easily be in an out of trim state and you wouldn't even notice it because you're just holding a little bit of pressure on the stick.
Yeah. There's a bit of friction from the autopilot servos and pitch as well. How about a low pass? You feel like doing a...
oh, yeah.
Right.
So in. I was going to ask if you
the Deb will be down there. That'll be fun. Sierra Papa Bravo's turning a left downwind 24 Smith Falls, low pass. I'll put that up some, put that up lots.
In my opinion, it's the only way to land an aircraft. The safest way to recover, apparently, so here's that excuse.
2400. Well, Deb will get a picture. He likes that. The boost pump is on. The tank has to go to the left. A little more than I need.
Seems to do what you want with power as well. Like, it doesn't seem like you talk about the cozy where the slippery aircraft, blah, 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 blah. So even though it was retaining energy really well in the maneuvers before, it seems to be, I guess, a function of power to weight ratio or something. You pull the power back and the speeds will drop for you as well.
Yeah. Sierra Papa Bravo's final Smith Falls, low pass. Close left to the stop. It'll be a little lumpy here.
Oh, well. Price you pay for looking awesome.
Give Deb a chance to see her airplane. Up we go.
Hey, if you lost an engine here, you're still making it back to the field.
Yeah, I'd go somewhere.
Yeah. No excuse.
Sierra Papa Bravo is the left downwind 24 is full stop. One of the funny things about the airplane is it's got a very low flap speed, 87.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you have to really haul the nose up. And it's got very low stalling speed too, but it's so clean. You have to kind of work to slow it down on the circuit. Let's see, put that in, I'll put that in. Boost pumps on, check the brakes, life is good, 80 knots, half flap. All right, low flaps and turn. That's full.
You're using the half flap just on that sort of last part of downwind there, just to hold speeds.
Usually I do it just as I'm turning base, and I'm not even sure why I do it. It's just it gives me something to something to control.
You're piloting.
Let's fall, Sierra Papa Bravo, left base, 24 full stop. Oh, at least there's no crosswind today. Yeah. Speeds are pretty lively on final here. I'm shooting for 80 knots. Here, Peter, breathe the brakes.
Breathe the brakes.
Thank you.
Look. Those 3-pointers, your standard?
I'm finding I like that most of the time. You can wheel land it quite nicely too.
Yeah. This seems to be better. It makes sense as well with the tail drag, you know, when you sticks all the way back. And
well, it's a lot about the geometry of the gear.
Yeah.
And the damping in it too. If it's got an oleo and you touch down, well, it scrubs most of the energy. This is just a spring.
Yes, sir.
So it's a little technique intensive to do a wheel landing. And then there's a whole debate about, well, what's the advantage?
Of wheeled versus 3-point, yeah.
Yeah. Point 6. If you're in an airplane that has a really degraded control response at low speeds, and you say you're concerned about your directional control power, Harvard's a good example. Well, then do a wheel landing to keep the rudder up where it's out from behind the fuselage, and you can steer and you can see. In this airplane, I'm not concerned about the control response right down to the stall, even in the 3-point attitude. So it'd be a pretty gusty day before I'd feel the need to do a wheel landing for that reason.
Well, if you made it all the way to the end and watched it all the way through, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. And big thanks to all my Patreons that make things like that actually happen. Without your guys' support, I wouldn't be able to get there. And that also obviously includes you guys over in Twitch that donate to me as well. So thanks for all your support, guys. And hopefully we'll be able to keep this content coming. This was a pretty fun flight. I hope you enjoyed, and we hope to see you back here soon. Thanks.